Fintech Fest, the Global Fintech Fest. The event is organized by Fintech Convergence Council and Payment Council of India, of IMAI, and National Payment Corporation of India. This fest is presented by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, Reserve Bank of India, and supported by Niti Aayog, Startup India, and Invest India. And our platinum partner, Visa, AWS, PhonePe, diamond partner, Cred, country partner, Australian government, track partner, HSBC, India, Refinitiv India, session partner, the UK Government Department for International Trade. We are here today to discuss a very crucial topic on NPCI Global FinTech Connect Marketing Enablers. Without any further ado, let me introduce you to our Mr. Gaurish Kargaonkar. He's the head FinTech relationship from National Payments Corporation of India. Abhinav Lunawat. He's the vice president business development Q processing services. Mr. Harish Karunakaran. He's the director payments and FinTech Fiserv. You may put your questions on the chat box, and we will try to respond to a few of them at the end of the session. With that, let me hand it over to all our speakers. You're on mute, Gaurish.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you for the introduction, and good evening and a very warm welcome to everyone for this session on market enablers. To start with, I would like to give a quick perspective on the session ahead and elaborate on our thoughts on what we mean when we say market enablers. For us at the FinTech team here at NPCI, market enablers are the key players on the industry who have been enabling and driving the FinTech and the banking industry. They have always been the backbone of what the industry has stood on and they have delivered successfully over the last decade. Today, we are seeing new use cases emerging on top of new processing stacks which are being curated. These are creating innovative user experiences on various segments. New form factors are being brought in. We saw a few launches already at the GFF. We are also seeing 1 million transactions happening in a matter of seconds between merchants, processors, card networks, and consumer apps. There is a lot of complexity involved in these transactions that the processor issuers need to handle. Specialized technology is being used in these capabilities, which ensure a rich user experience across. This is exactly what our enablers do. The enablers have always evolved in their ability that they offer and have been able to transcend these services across a spectrum of users. NPCI is embedded at the core of these enablers so as to facilitate certification at a lightning fast speed and also to give an even faster go-to-market for the players who want to come. Today, we have two of the largest enablers with us on stage who need no in-depth introduction. Fiserv today is one of the largest processing players cutting across the length and breadth of the ecosystem, consistently delivering extraordinary value. 65% market share in credit card issuance processing and it's among the top three merchant acquiring as well. Fiserv enables clients to optimize operations and also to keep pace with the emerging tech in the market. The other player that we have on stage with us today is QPS. QPS is a new age B2B service provider offering fully managed and issuance and integrated platforms with banks and payment services. QPS today has enabled platform capabilities for powering innovations in the fintech space and also enabled card programs to end users. Without much further ado, I would like to call on stage my friend Harish from Fiserv and Abhinav from QPS, who would be taking you through the new enablements and offerings which pave way for future payments on card and prepaid. So Harish, over to you, and we would wait for questions at the end of the session, at the end of both the sessions. Yeah, Harish, over to you.
Hey, thank you, Gaurish. Thanks for that, kind introduction. And I would probably straight jump into. I think you did introduce Fiserv to a great extent, but I would just cover for audience who probably do not know Fiserv from a global perspective. I'll just take a few seconds to kind of say where how we are positioned globally. Fiserv, for people who know us in India, we are definitely one of the largest issuer processors. Globally, we are the largest issuer processor. We are definitely the largest merchant acquirer on record globally. And for those who don't know us globally, we are basically the largest core banking account processor too, right? So that's That's how we are positioned globally. We have been 8 years in a row the world's most admired company. So just to position ourselves as a innovative company in the fintech space. In India, I think Gaurish alluded to that. We are already covering 65% of the market share from a credit card issuer processing perspective, and we have a large share on the merchant acquiring space too. We have roughly around 41 million plus cards on account on our platform, which is hosted in India, in the data centers in India. We also do the merchant acquiring out of our data center in India. We established this data center in 2018, just to put it in perspective from an in-country localization perspective. What we do, we basically offer a platform at its core, which basically can deliver credit card processing, debit card processing. We can definitely do retail payment processing. Obviously, commercial cards is a focus that we have within the processing platform that we host, and we can do length and breadth of unsecured lending and prepaid, right? And as a service, go to market, we basically cover the entire life cycle of these cards, right from onboarding all the way to the back office processing, settlement, reconciliation, right? So we try to cover the whole spectrum. In this particular session, I would like to focus on what we are co-building with NPCI at its core, and how we are trying to bring an ecosystem for issuing credit cards end to end into the market, targeted at fintechs, and obviously with banks as the enabler sitting behind. So we want to bring this ecosystem forward, and that's what I'll talk about. We want to make this ecosystem a plug-and-play ecosystem. What do we mean by that? We want to bring in a ready-to-use stack which can drive financial inclusion. And in this context, definitely new to credit use cases is what we are focused on. We will ensure that the stack that we bring in along with NPCI is highly modular, is API-driven, and covers, as I mentioned, from origination to fulfillment. We have seen in the market that there is a demand for business process outsourcing services, because not everybody wants to do specialized jobs like chargebacks, probably fraud monitoring, etc. And in case there is a need to support such activities as a center of excellence, we are more than happy to jump in and support such needs that fintechs may have, along with the banks in the market as we move forward. And last but not the least, both NPCI and Fiserv is committed to obviously refer qualified use cases onto banks from a BIN sponsorship and risk underwriting perspective, because BINs under the current regulation can only be sponsored by banks. What are we trying to solve for the various stakeholders? I will just quickly browse through this. So from a fintech perspective, these are the three key stakeholders in this ecosystem. A fintech, which is trying to create the digitalization use cases on top, right? We want to basically give them an access to pool of banks who can possibly sponsor the BINs and underwrite the risk. Obviously, the bank will wear the banker's lens to look at each use case, but we are more than happy to take those use cases on behalf of the fintech, right? And we would definitely secure, by working with a platform like Fiserv integrated into a European network. Fintech is obviously getting access into one of the world's most secure, most scaled back office, processing capabilities, right? And we want to make this as much as possible a one-stop shop for the fintech to work with us, leverage the APIs without going and talking to multiple players in the ecosystem. Talk to Fiserv and NPCI and create your new use case. That's where we wanted to go, right? And then we would like to build these capabilities, ideally independent of the bank infrastructure, because we have seen when a fintech wants to launch a program, they're obviously in a rush to do it very, very fast. And the banks have their own business priorities, right? And these two do not match, and hence there is a friction. We are trying to open up this platform, which are used by the large banks in the country, and obviously other banks can also join this bandwagon. And we want to basically make this integration between a fintech and the bank's back office processing on our platform, independent of banks, projects, and IT team, right? So we'll open up the APIs. Fintechs can actually start building the use cases directly on our platform, right? And the bank would obviously, if I talk about the bank, from a bank perspective, the bank basically has the comfort that, they are actually launching a credit card program on a platform which is already well established, has got the scale, has got the security. I've been running for the last, I would say, approximately 40 years as a software. So that is the comfort that the bank would have when a program is built on a stack like this. It is already certified by the major card schemes, and it is aligned in terms of roadmap from a RuPay perspective, right? So RuPay 2.0 is something which we are mutually aligned to launch on the platform, right? And the work is almost done. And as soon as the fintech is on board, we should make RuPay 2.0 roadmap available for the fintechs and the banks. And last but not the least, the bank obviously has a control over the data and the system access that is provided to the fintech. This has been a key ask in our discussions, because the fintech use cases may succeed, may not succeed. Everybody is experimenting. All are in it, with a wish that it becomes a very large use case. But God forbid, and something goes wrong, we have mechanisms in place to ensure that the customers and the data, which eventually belongs to the bank, can be handed over back to the bank, and the program probably can continue under a bank's label at some point, right? So these are considerations that we have made in the design of this ecosystem. And I think I already spoke about, RuPay and us working very closely. So we have pre-certified bins that we'll make available on the platform, ensuring that the go-to-market to launch a new use case is substantially reduced from what it is today. And we hope to deliver all this as an ecosystem at a cost which is acceptable to all. Right, so that's the endeavor based on which this ecosystem has been created. What are the different layers of this ecosystem? Right, I'll quickly talk. To make it plug and play, we need to obviously look at, this is a very critical component that is targeted at the fintech community, who can actually co-create use cases on behalf of all of us. Right, so you guys who are already in the market with different kinds of use cases are our target in terms of working together to co-create credit card lending use cases, right? So that's where we'll start. Obviously, to enable all this fintech with different use cases to issue cards in the market, there is an enablement layer which includes BIN sponsor banks, and obviously the same bank could be an underwriter, or probably the underwriter could be an NBFC, for all you know. So all these use cases could evolve as we move along, right? Some fintech use cases might cover this entire spectrum within their use case itself, or they may want to plug and play into any of these partners whom we are onboarding onto this ecosystem, right? So these are data partners, these are underwriting engines, these are KYC partners, and obviously to do a financial inclusion program and alternate data scoring model, right? So we have thought through, these are the key engines that will come in as at the enablement layer. This is the processing layer which Fiserv and RuPay is already launched in the market, and this is the core engine which will deliver all the APIs that can integrate into any of the stakeholders, either on the top or the fulfillment partners at the bottom, right? So this is the engine which will work, based on leveraging the APIs to co-create this ecosystem as we move along, right? Everything may not be in place, but the core is in place, and this is work in progress. Just to, and we'll have it ready as per the demand in the market. Very quickly, okay, before I go there, I also want to call out something which is observation from us. Think about credit card management system as a core banking for credit cards, right? And typically, our advice in the market is, when it comes to the core, you don't have two core banking in a bank, right? So similarly, when you create a lot of credit card use cases or lending use cases, think about this core as your core banking for credit card, and your system of record for different use cases. Ideally, it's best left as single system of record rather than splitting it across multiple core card management systems. So that's a observation that we had. I think a lot of fintechs basically try to co-create a lot of layers here. Probably it's best left to some of the experts in the respective areas, right? So I'm just leaving a thought there. In terms of what we bring into the core, that is the core card management system itself, not just the ecosystem is modular, even the core card management system is modular, right? So you can pick and choose what you need. There are certain modules which are obviously, the core, but everything else is modular. For example, we can actually bring in a real-time fraud monitoring system. We could bring in a behavioral scoring system which can offer risk-based limit management, probably risk-based pricing, right? These are all very useful when we are jointly targeting a new to credit portfolio as an ecosystem, right? We don't know what is the kind of profile of portfolio that we'll end up building on the platform, and risk management will become a very key component in terms of delivering a profitable portfolio for everybody in the ecosystem, right? So that's broadly what I wanted to cover. Happy to take any questions or back to you, Gaurish.
Yeah, thank you, Harish, so much for that. Actually, it was very insightful, and thank you for touching on Infini, the platform that we're building together. Uh, what you spoke about, a bank can't have two cores, right? Obviously, because when you think about core, you firstly you think about the scale of it, and then the other question is the amount of money that you would put into developing a core, right? So, specific to this, what is your go-to-market strategy on the pricing in this particular thing? If you can touch upon that a little bit, I think it would help.
Sure, Gaurish. I mean, our go-to-market strategy has always been, platform or software as a service, right? And obviously now it's not just the software. That's why I'm calling it platform. And probably along with NPCI under the Infini brand, we are making it an ecosystem, right? So
Right.
you just don't get the software, you get the BPO, you also get all the surrounds. Talk to one entity and you get everything, right? And the model that we would like to go in terms of pricing, answering a specific question, a very minimum setup fee, and then obviously pay as you go model, right? So that's the model that we would
Right.
go with.
Right. So, just if you could quickly elaborate a little bit on the pay-as-you-go strategy, pay-as-you-go module.
Sure. Typically it will be like, our model is around, per card account fee, right?
Okay.
And,
Okay.
depending on services that the bank or the fintech may, subscribe from us, which has
Right.
a per transaction angle, there could be a small per transaction fee too, but both are pay if you use, right? Only if you issue a card, you pay. Only if you do a transaction, you pay, right? So
Thank you so
broadly,
much.
that's
I
all.
think, yeah, that clarifies it a great deal. Thank you so much for this. So, Harish, we'll come back to more questions at the end of the session. But having the positive time, we'll quickly go to Abhinav. Abhinav, over to you. Stage is yours. Take us through your product and process. Abhinav, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction and setting up the context, Gorish. The technology behind the payment is ever evolving, and it's very important to reach out to stakeholders with the know how and the updates on the same. And for that, I'm thankful to NPCI and the organizing team to bring this opportunity to talk about the enablers of the payments and to reach out to the wider audience with the update on how processors are approaching the ecosystem. Uh, and it's indeed a pleasure to share this platform along with Harish, who represents Fiserv, which already is adding value to the card issuance ecosystem in its own way. Uh, Let me begin with introducing Q Processing Services, QPS, and about its aspirations to add value to the payment space. QPS is a new age payment processor, probably one of the youngest in the Indian ecosystem, that supports issuance of all kind of payment cards, be it prepaid cards, debit cards, credit cards, in the most secured manner. Uh, what we do and in what ways are we aspiring to add the value? We hold an objective, and which is to allow the clients to keep scaling up while they grow, innovate, and you know with their core business. So even taking care of enabling the value-added services which we offer to them as 360-degree offering beyond the payments. And this is what we achieve through flexible API-based services that we offer as a customized solution to address different use cases. Um, and which also means that, instead of asking them to explore the ecosystem, we bring the complete ecosystem to them. So that cuts efforts of finding and evaluating the right fit. In a way, we are positioning ourselves as the consultants to such evolving use cases, evolving fintechs. We would be happy to support them with the know-how and consultancy. So the card payment innovation, the way we look at is in the following manner. The new customers nowadays expect a real-time experience. They need visibility and insights into their spends. They expect quicker access to new form factors, which are very quickly evolving, and more importantly, the ways to be in control of their spends. For example, Gorish, you may like to define a limit on certain kind of spend basis the monthly budget you may have, right? So how do you bring in those elements is what is a customer's perspective. From a fintech point of view, and fintechs are very quickly finding traction. They are good at identifying the gaps and filling them up. This allows them for a quicker customer acquisition and onboarding. So offering them extended product functionalities and features which result in exceptional customer experience is our aspiration. When it comes to the financial institutions and fintech, yes, they have their way, but of course, challenges also. The challenge is that they aspire to build and launch solutions the quickest possible. You know, access to data is the key success for many businesses, and they need to ensure consistency and uptime. More importantly, finding the right partners who could help them achieve all this with a minimum effort is another task. So these are the expectations which a payment processor like us are trying to meet, being a critical component in delivering real-time experience to the end user. To the end user. Uh, In terms of our offering, the issuance processing is enabled through end-to-end program management as a plug-and-play solution, or may just be about processing the cards. So it all depends upon the need of the client. We let them focus on their business and ensure that the card program and the value adds are taken care of through respective expert service provider. So we are talking about end-to-end user journey and the support around the value-added services which the prospective partners may be looking at. We are proud to be engaged with NPCI, having direct connectivity to power different card programs. Uh, this is definitely done in collaboration with banks and non-bank PPI partners, which are critical partners to the whole arrangement. And we are looking at adding value to all the partners through our concentrated efforts to bring in newer use cases, fintechs, and multiple different verticals, to the ecosystem. This is a brief view to what we are trying to support. So, neobanks, the emerging banks who are challenging the existing players, acquiring new customers, offering their services in an innovative way, in an agile way. Uh, Lending is a great evolving ecosystem. How do you better understand the behavior of the customer? How do you enhance the experience? And how do you allow the customer to be in control of their spends is what we are enabling the lending space as. Of course, market spaces have been constantly evolving with multiple newer form factors and ways of payment. Buy now, pay later uh, is the buzzword at the moment. So, of course, that is also being supported through the value propositions that we have. Of course, beyond these, payments as a services have been adopted by different businesses and ecosystems which were unheard of. And this is what we would want to ensure that everyone who's thinking in the direction of enabling the users with the power of card payments, we should be able to support each of the use case in collaboration with NPCI, the schemes, as well as from the banks and the PPI partners. Uh, these are the programs that we support, which is on the prepaid debit and credit side. This could be virtual cards, this could be physical cards because the form factors are quickly evolving. Of course, the use cases which are evolving in the space are forex, transit, fleet management, travel and entertainment, corporate and payroll, loyalty, lending. I feel our role as processors have become so very critical in terms of not only supporting these evolving use cases, but also suggesting them the right fit, the right partnerships, and the right solution, not only you know uh, during the pre-evaluating stages, but also post-engagement. And that is the journey we aspire to look at. Uh, of course, Harish has well explained as how processes, and particularly Fiserv, is taking care of different elements, different aspects of user engagement. So, not making it repetitive, let me just pick up one use case and try to explain how this space is evolving. Um, See, corporate expense management is one I have picked up. And earlier, typically, there were different ways of compensating the employees, different way of managing the accounts, and doing things which was quite cumbersome. Uh, by the way of introducing the card programs, it is we have been able to provide a very very simplified solution to optimize the complete expense management for the corporates, and more importantly for the benefit of their employees. This has become a great engagement tool for the corporates also. uh, QPS is proud to share that we are currently the only solution provider in the world which offers both corporate and personal solution on the same platform. So what I'm talking about, Gorish, is an individual being able to leverage upon his corporate expenses as well as the personal expenses using the same platform, right? So this is the kind of agility that we have brought into the program. Just taking a step ahead for the benefit of a larger audience, uh, the corporate expense management, which will encompass, any kind of management, any kind of fleet expenditures, any kind of reimbursement. uh, Larger the corporates, larger the number of employees, larger the number of transactions, right? Of course, payroll management is a great way to take care of a certain set of employees. Corporate advance and micro loans can also be offered using this platform, which makes it very, very interesting for the accounts team and the HR teams of the corporates. And this was unimagined till about a couple of years back. Everyone was following the very, very traditional way of approaching it. Of course, the benefits here is unlimited users can use this platform. Corporate can define the spends on the retail online as far as the fueling expenses. More important and the most interesting aspect of this for the audience is it is a very very quick solution to implement. It's a very, very quick solution to implement, which takes away a lot of efforts on the corporate side to evaluate and incorporate with a minimal technology handshake. Of course, this brings in instant disbursements. There is a great control in terms of fraud checks, in terms of audit requirements, basically controls at a different levels. This not only digitizes the spends, but this also digitizes the petty cash management. So moving from less cash to no cash is something which is enabled through this solution for the corporates. And of course, it also allows corporates to take care of their corporate gifting requirements. Uh, I have already shared with this. This is a hassle-free setup. There can be control points which can be set up. More importantly, one card having multiple features at the back end, which users may not even realize, takes care of all the requirements. And when I'm saying it can be used for personal use, it can be used for the corporate, it can be used as a Forex card when you're traveling, right? So multiple use cases being addressed through one card. So this is how industry is evolving. This is how things are changing. And this is how we can bring in seamless payment interactions, in the ecosystem for the clients, for the fintechs, because each of us at some point in time are corporates, right? Of course, it makes things paperless. The entire trail is digitized, and which helps not only the corporates but also the auditors, also the complete ecosystem to keep track of the spends and the purchases that are done. I think because most of the aspects have been covered in the earlier presentation, would just uh, move on to how these interactions are enabled, because constantly the form factors are changing, right? When we talk about cards, it is not just about cards, right? Because many a times when you do a card spend, it is not actually through a physical card. It could be a virtual card riding on your mobile app. It could be using a customer portal, right? And it can be done by a corporate using some kind of access, web access. So form factors could be physical, could be virtual. And now, during one of the sessions, as I witnessed, variables are quickly becoming the new form factors for the card payments. Much more secure, agile, and quicker. Of course, tap and pay, QR, definitely are the way of life at the moment, right? Uh, this is what, Gaurish, I would like to share from my side as QPS, as one of the most aspiring processes at the ecosystem. I'm happy to receive your thoughts. Gaurish, Harish, both of you. Thank you.
No, thank you so much for that. Now, I think that was a very enriching session, and we actually learned quite a lot. My only question to you is, when we talk about when you talk about some of the products, some of the use cases that you spoke about, right, on the expense management side, how quick can one of the fintechs go to market with one of your solutions? So, what do you think is the process time for going to market?
I think that was a very easy question that you asked me. So I'll expect one more question coming from your side. So in terms of supporting a fintech, a corporate, which is clear on their thoughts of going with the program, I think it's matter of about 4 weeks to 6 weeks for us to take them live, which includes the complete implementation, training, and of course issuance of digital cards. Physical cards, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry.
Physical cards may have their own logistical requirements, but yes, 4 to 6 weeks is what we look forward to take a corporate this way and experience them the power of the cards.
Right. And also another question, and this we were discussing backstage for a while. What are your thoughts on account aggregation? How do you think the play is going to be there? And this is open to both you and Harish as well. Harish, I would want your thoughts also.
Sure.
So I would suggest Harish to take it first, because I
Sure.
saw the passion in Harish
Yeah.
when we were discussing this topic, and
Absolutely.
if I could compliment, I'll be happy to do that. Harish.
Thanks for that, Abhinav. Yeah, I mean, a subject which I've been closely following. I'm sure a lot of us in the country are following. I think India has delivered a platform which is, an account aggregator platform where they have been able to segregate, or where we have been able to segregate between the consent and the data, right? So that's beautiful. And I think close to 4 banks have gone live, and the 4 banks are coming on board. So in the ecosystem that I spoke about, where NPCI and Fiserv have come together, obviously we believe in the enablement layer. The account aggregators are going to play a major role, because bureau data is not good enough to get the next, let's say, 10, 20 million new to credit card customers very, very quickly, right? And we firmly believe the data that account aggregation ecosystem will bring would probably help more banks underwrite the risk associated with this new to credit portfolio. So definitely look forward to having them on board as part of the ecosystem, and both NPCI and us, we have been in discussion with them. So that's my take.
Thank you so much for that, Harish.
Yes,
Yeah,
completely.
yeah, sorry.
Completely agree with you, Harish. I think account aggregators are aggregate enablers of a different sort. So they are definitely going to play a critical role out there. My only thought is, and which occurred to me during our discussion, is data from the customer uh, and data for the customer, right? So how do we utilize this information for the good of the customer to bring in a greater experience, I think is going to define the success of the whole arrangement. Yes, that's my thoughts on the account aggregation part of it.
Sure. Thank you, Abhinav. And I think there's a question on the chat for you, Abhinav. Does queue processing services takes care of the data localization piece?
Oh, absolutely. Uh, and there can be no exception to it because we, as part of the payment ecosystem, have to follow the law of the land. So, yes, and that is taken care in each country that we operate. So, each country has their own data localization rules and guidelines, and definitely this is taken care of in India, for India.
Right. So I think that's about it. I Those were the questions that were there from my end. In case there is any further questions from anyone on the channel, please put them up at the chat, and we'll be happy to get Harish, Abhinav, or me to answer them. Yeah. So I think that's about it. Thank you, Harish, and thank you, Abhinav, for joining in. I think that was a very fruitful discussion. I hope as we were saying, that this translates into more conversations for us. This conversation translates into more conversations from us, which lead to business going forward. And happy to be associated with both Fiserv and QPS, and intend to take this forward. Yeah.
Thank you, Gaurish.
Thank you
Thank you,
so much,
Abhinav.
Gorish. Thank you, Harish, being part of this discussion. Thank you.
Same.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for sparing your valuable time to be with us. I would also like to thank our audience to join us. We are signing off. Thank you.
Thank you.